Our pro-life argument is pretty straightforward. Premise 1, it's wrong to intentionally kill an innocent human being. Premise 2, abortion does that. Conclusion, therefore, abortion's wrong. Yeah, that's our argument, and you know how we defend it. We defend it from science by arguing that from the earliest stages of development, from the one-cell stage, you were a distinct, living, and whole human being, and we argue philosophically that there's no essential difference between you, the embryo, and you, the adult, that would justify killing you at that earlier stage of development. And that basic pro-life argument, which by now you should have committed to memory, we've covered it enough on this program, that basic pro-life argument is grounded in a larger view of the human person known as the substance view of human value. And let me unpack what the substance view entails so you can make sense of it. It sounds like a big philosophical term, but I think you'll agree it really isn't that hard once you kind of unpack it. The substance view says this: living things maintain their identity through time and change. In other words, a puppy that loses a leg is still a puppy or a dog by nature. In other words, living things have underlying natures or essences, some would call it a soul, I'm comfortable with all of those terms, that define their identity, ground them in change through time, and allow us to say we have the same being at the beginning of their existence as we do at the end. Now, you stop to think about it for a moment. A property thing like my 66 Mustang that's sitting in the garage right beneath this studio is really just a sum total of its parts. In fact, if you were to go out there and look at it right now, the first thing you'd say is, man, that's a beautiful car. And it is. It's in phenomenal shape. It's vintage burgundy. It's been a great hobby to have it as a way to just have a distraction from life. But here's the thing. That 1966 Mustang is technically not the same car that rolled off the assembly line, 62 years ago? No, because you stop to think about it. The tires have been changed. The brake shoes have been changed. Recently, I just changed the carburetor and redid the cooling system. Not long before that, I replaced the water pump, and then I went through and really rebuilt the brake system. I put in new wheel cylinders, changed the master cylinder, put in new spring hardware. I've done a lot of work to this car to keep it running at the highest level of efficiency. The parts have been changed, is my point. And when you deal with something that's a property thing, or what some philosophers refer to as an artifact, you change the parts, you kind of change the thing. Here's a way to think about it as well. Suppose you went out to my back deck, which I'm, again, not sitting that far from, and you replaced every plank of wood on that deck. Now, you would say it's still a deck, yes, but is it the same deck that was here before I replaced every part in it? And you'd probably say, well, no, it's kind of a different deck because after all, you've gone through and all the lumber that was there previously, piece by piece, you've replaced. So technically, although it's still a deck in terms of how it functions, it's not the same deck that it was before. And I think you'd be right to say that. However, when it comes to living things like human beings, plants and animals, reptiles, fish, whatever, living things are not mere part-like things like that deck. Rather, living things maintain their identity, though their physical parts and properties may change. For example, if I lose an arm or lose an eye, I am the same human being after that tragedy as I am before. There's no substantial change to my nature that changes what I am fundamentally. I am still Scott Klusendorf. I am the same Scott Klusendorf before and after that regrettable loss of body function. And that's what I want us to understand here. When it comes to saying that the unborn are equal to us as adults, that the unborn me is identical to the adult me, what I mean is I'm the same being at that stage of development back there as I eventually developed into later in life. Sure, my capacity's changed, my ability to function has increased, I hopefully have gained in intellect and physical stature, But I'm the same Scott Klusendorf now as I was at the one cell stage. I was unnamed back then, but I'm the same ontological being. That's the substance view. And the substance view concludes this way. If I'm intrinsically valuable today, I was intrinsically valuable back then when I was an embryo because I'm identical to my former fetal and embryonic self.